Hey everybody, we're going to continue to look at Jesus' biggest teaching. He comes to a point that I think is one of the hardest things to do, but it's actually one of the truest tests of what's in our heart. It's really easy to love people, to act kind, act courteous when we like people, or when it's a good situation, or when people are kind and courteous to us. But the true test comes when people aren't kind to us, when people don't act how we want them to, when people don't act in a fair way, when we experience injustice, when people are evil or cruel or mean or say things about us. I want you to think for a second. This doesn't only happen with people we don't like, people we might call our enemies. This might happen with people we deeply love. But in moments where we are not happy with what they're doing, in moments where they act in hurtful ways and it hurts us, in those moments, how do you act? And there's so many times that we want to defend ourselves, we want to get back at people, we want to set the record straight. But if you think of Jesus' example, on the cross, he was quiet. When he was asked if he was the king of the Jews, he said yes. But he didn't fight back. He basically was quiet, and he took the punishment, even though it was unjust, even though people threw their insults at him, he was quiet. In this moment, Jesus begins to show us some truths about what's really in our heart. The best test to see what's truly in our hearts is to see how we treat people when we are not happy, when we're not happy with them, when we're not happy with their actions. Jesus said this in Matthew chapter 5. You've heard it said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, you need to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so you may be children of your Father in heaven. Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. So really, in this moment, Jesus tells us the way that you truly act like me is you love people. You pray for people. You don't just love people who are easy to love, because everybody can do that. You don't just pray for people who you care the most about. You actually pray for people who are actively hurting you, who are persecuting you, who are doing things against you intentionally. You know, the thing that you need to do in that moment is pray for them, Jesus said, because these are all the things that God does. So even though it may be the hardest thing for us to do, it is the truest test of our character to see how we treat people, both those we already don't like, but also those we love or we are committed to, family members or friends, in moments where they are not making us happy, in moments where they are being mean, in moments where they are being hurtful, in moments when people are not acting like you know they should be and you wish they would be. How do you act? It's the truest test of character that we could ever experience. And it is also the moment where we will see if God is truly in our hearts or not. And what comes out in those moments helps us understand the strength or weakness or absence of faith in our lives. In those moments, will we choose to love? That's what Jesus is trying to teach. The way that people will understand who God is when his children will choose to love, especially when it's hard to love. And I hope we could take time to meditate and think on this, because it is so essential, especially in our world today, our world that is hurting, our world that is divided, our world that is full of distance between communities and disunity. What we need now are people who are going to be willing to love and to forgive, even when people don't deserve it. But when people choose to live that way are the moments that people begin to see God in us. So that it's sort of a cliche, but the point is to always choose to love. But the truest test of what type of love is in our heart will be when we face those difficult times. How will we choose to act? And Jesus implores us, act like him. Act in love, especially when people don't treat you how they should. Continue to love, continue to forgive, continue to pray for them, and you will find the power of God in your life. God bless.